Hey guys, welcome to the next tutorial. So this one's pretty simple. We're just going to go ahead and tidy up a few of our scripts, and we're actually going to add in some jumping and landing animations. As usual, a link to the Discord server will be in the description, and if you need any help, go ahead and put it in the help channel, and we'll do our best to help. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to go ahead and fix up my naming issues. So I'm going to call this animation falling, idle. We got jump, landing, sprinting, and walking. Cool. Alright, so if we open the animator tab and go on weapon animations, or you can just click on weapon animations and double tap the controller, you can see it added our 3 new animations, which is what we want, except we don't want it on this layer, we want it on a separate layer. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete it out of here, and we'll create our layer a little later on. Alright, so what I actually want to do is I want to go into our character controller script. So on our player, or SCR character controller, just going to go on there and let's actually do a bit of tidying up. So first things I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few little regions. So I'm going to separate things out a little bit. So I'm going to add a region for the awake. And also for the update. I'm going to have a region for our view / movement. Alright, and then we'll put our jumps together. We'll have a region for jumping. And then a region for stance. And then finally a region for sprinting. We're going to create a brand new region for gizmos. And inside this we're going to have a private void for on-draw gizmos. And what we're going to do, so we're actually going to change our IsGrounded, and we're also going to create an extra IsFalling. So let's go ahead and create those two there. So we're not actually going to use our character controller .IsGrounded, mainly because it is a little bit temperamental when going down hills and stairs, for example. We're going to go ahead and create our own and make it a little bit more lenient. So I'm going to create a public bool for IsGrounded and a public bool for IsFalling. Alright, and both of these I'm going to hide in Inspector. Just like so, and now we need to set the values. So I'm going to go back up here to settings. We're going to our player settings model, so I'm just going to hit F12 on it. I go down here, I'm going to add a header. And what we can do is we can just call this IsGrounded. We don't need settings. IsGrounded, and inside here we'll create a public float for IsGrounded radius. Cool. We'll just do a /falling. We'll have our public float for IsFalling speed. Okay. Alright, so what we now need to do is we're going to use that radius. We're actually going to do a check sphere. So underneath settings here, you see we have player mask. We're going to create another one, except instead of player mask, it's going to be called ground mask. And just like that, we're ready. So I want to draw a gizmo just so that we can actually see how lenient we are being with the IsGrounded check. Because obviously if we're too lenient, you know, we have to leave quite a big gap on the floor in order for it to be set to false, so our jumping won't work properly. So just inside our draw gizmos, I'm literally just going to do gizmos dot draw, and then we're going to draw a wire sphere. And so now it wants a position, so we can just use our no, we didn't call it foot, we called it feet. Feet transform dot position. And then what it also wants is a radius, and the radius we can use is obviously the one we just put inside our player settings. Dot IsGrounded radius. Alright, so let's go back into Unity, go back into the scene view, click on our player, open up the settings, and let's go ahead and play with this new I was looking at the wrong place, it's up here. IsGrounded radius. We'll go ahead and play with this. So you can see here's our sphere down here. And if I expand the character controller, you can see it's just like a little sphere that we're going to be using to check that we're actually touching the ground. And so just for testing, I'm going to set the IsGrounded radius to 0.1. And I'll set the we can come back to the falling speed, so that should be that. So you can see if something's colliding within the sphere, we'll basically say we're grounded. But it's not just anything, it's anything inside this ground mask here. So the new layer mask we just created, let's go ahead and make sure that everything is set in here. So I'm going to change that to everything, come back in and take out the player. So actually it's very similar to the player mask. Background mask in case you wanted to exclude anything later on. Alright, so now inside, just below update, I'm actually going to create a region for IsFalling / IsGrounded. Alright, and then inside here I'm just going to have a private void for set IsGrounded. As you can imagine, a private void for set IsFalling. Just like that. I'm going to put both of these in the update. So we'll pop it above everything, just in case anything relies on its value. Falling relies on IsGrounded value, so just make sure you have your IsGrounded before IsFalling. And then while we're in here, so we'll do our IsGrounded first. We can now hide the gizmos, and inside our set IsGrounded. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say IsGrounded equals, and then we're going to use physics dot check sphere. And this is very simple. Again, it wants a position, feet transform dot position. We want our player settings, similar to what we just did with the gizmo, IsGrounded radius, and then it wants our ground mask. Okay, so if there's anything inside the sphere with this position and this radius, and only looking for items of that mask, then IsGrounded is true, which is pretty much what we want. IsFalling is a little bit different. So firstly we'll say if exclamation mark for not, if not grounded, and we'll say and character controller, and then we'll say dot velocity dot magnitude is greater than our player settings dot IsFalling speed. Then we'll say IsFalling equals true. Okay. So what we'll actually do is we'll take that out and we'll set it to this. So no need for an if statement. We can tidy that up a little bit. So I'll say IsFalling is not grounded, and our magnitude being greater than IsFalling speed, or greater or equal to. None's the wiser. Cool. Alright, so that should work. What I'm actually going to do is above this, let's do a debug.log, and we'll just log the falling speed. And then when we're inside Unity, we'll just keep an eye on the value. So I'm going to hit play, and we're going to see what kind of speeds our magnitude gets up to. So currently it's on 0. Okay, my mistake. So inside our player, let's go back into player settings, and let's just make sure that we actually set a falling speed. But what we also want to do is, I put the wrong thing in here. I put is falling speed. We obviously don't want that, we want our magnitude. Let's go ahead and test that now. So we can kind of see what speeds we get up to when falling. Let's see a normal jump. If I now open this, let's clear that. Okay, so a normal jump can be anywhere between 0, 0, 3, 0, 4, maybe even 0, 5. So what we can do is our is falling, we can set to something low, such as like 0.4 or even 1. Where's our is falling speed? So we'll set that to 1. And now, instead of logging our magnitude, let's actually log our is falling. So we'll see how this behaves now. So as soon as we're not grounded and our magnitude is greater than our falling speed, you'll see our is falling set to true. Cool. Which is exactly what we wanted. Okay, so we're going to make use of both of these variables. So firstly, I'm going to copy the name of IsGrounded. And I'm just going to do a control find for character controller dot IsGrounded. Everywhere we used our character controller grounded, I'm just going to go ahead and replace that with our boolean. Just inside here, just replace all of that. You can even just do a find and replace, but what's done is done. And then also inside our weapon controller. So I'm going to go to our weapon controller, double click that, open that up, and just see if we have any IsGrounded checks in here, which we don't. Okay, so we have our IsGrounded and IsFalling, so it's nice and simple. Yeah, we need to add a few checks because we're going to be throwing a few triggers inside our weapon controller, and these triggers are basically going to trigger those animations. So firstly, let's also make sure our IsGrounded is working. So I see I only logged out our IsFalling. Let's also log out our IsGrounded just to double check and make sure that it's working. So I'm just going to copy this log here. Let's tidy that up a little. Put that in here. Or debug.log IsGrounded. So let's just check that that works okay. Pretty sure it did, otherwise the IsFalling wouldn't have worked. Yeah, so it's set to true and defaults to true. Cool, yeah, that is working. Okay, so now we have those set up. Let's go ahead and set up our weapon and set up a few triggers. So it is as simple as it sounds. I'm just going to come here into the update. I'm going to do it in the update, and then like we did last time, we'll separate it out to tidy it up. So I'm going to create just a nice private bool, and what we'll call this is IsGrounded trigger, and we'll also create a private bool for IsFalling trigger. Not sure if we're going to use both. But it's there for if we need it, we'll come delete it if not. Okay, so what we want to check first is we'll say if our character controller dot is grounded and our is grounded trigger is false. So we're going to put an exclamation mark in front of that. Then we have to set our is grounded to true. And then obviously here we'll just do a debug.log for land. We'll also say else. So we'll say else if character controller isn't grounded, so I'll add an exclamation mark in front of that. But our is ground is trigger is true, then it's the opposite. So we then want to set that to false. We'll change that to falling. We might need to add a little delay here, just because we don't want that to hit straight away. Okay. Okay, so that's nice and easy. What we can then also do is add a public void for trigger jump. Basically what this is we can say is grounded trigger. We can set that straight to false. And also here we will add a debug.log for jump. Cool. I'm just going to add trigger in front of all of these. Okay, so we need to call trigger jump from our character controller when we jump. So let's go into our jumping region here where we call jump here. Let's go ahead and we'll just say we have current weapon dot trigger jump. It's nice and easy. I don't know how this is going to look, so let's go ahead and see if we need to add that delay, which I have a very strong feeling we might need to. I'm just going to, let's make this a little bit smaller and let's just move that to the side. Gonna hit play. I'll just come in here. Okay, alright, so it looks like I'm still shooting off my boolean. Let's get rid of that wherever I put it. Debug.log. Okay, let's get rid of that. Go back to Unity. Okay, let's see how our triggers are behaving. We need to make sure that it triggers at the right place, otherwise our weapon's going to be doing funny stuff. Alright, trigger land, that's perfect. We wanted it to trigger a land because we were falling. I've triggered jump. Okay, that triggered the land 3 times. Okay, so you see we are going to have... We're going to have to add a little delay there, because you can see as we jump it triggers the land straight away, because obviously as we set that boolean to false, in that frame we're still on the ground, which isn't what we want. Let's go ahead and get rid of our is falling trigger boolean, we don't need that. But we will add a little bit of a delay. So this isn't the best way of doing it, but I'm going to do it for now. So we're just going to create a private float for falling delay. And what we'll do inside our update here, we'll just say if character controller dot is grounded, so falling delay equals 0. We'll just say else falling delay plus equals time dot delta time. So we'll just add to it. And then inside of our trigger land here, we'll also add and falling delay is greater than, say, 0.1 second. Let's test that, see how it goes. Obviously, if you're still getting the issue, just make that timer a little longer. So I'm going to hit play again. We got a trigger jump. We didn't get a trigger land. Okay, let's make our falling delay a public, just so I can keep an eye on it. Alright, so I think I'm using the wrong boolean. So instead of using our character controller .isGrounded, let's try use our IsGrounded trigger. And I believe that should trigger at the right time. So we'll go ahead and hit play. So we should get our trigger land as we land, and as we jump we should get trigger jump, and then another trigger land, so that says 2, which is good. So what if we fall off of something? So for now, let's just duplicate one of these cubes, move it to the ground, move it over a little, just so we can jump on it and test it. I'm gonna hit play, let's go do that. So I'm just let's clear that one out. Actually, let's jump on top quick. Alright, let's clear that. Alright, so if I just fall off, we do have trigger fall in, trigger land. Okay, that's cool. We do fall off a little bit quick, but we'll come back to that in another video. I know somebody on Discord has asked, and I believe we fixed it. I just haven't done the fix in the tutorial yet. Okay, so let's get our animation triggers in. So let's go back into our script, and we'll just create a private void for. Oh, actually, we have set weapon animations. Let's just add it to that. So everything we've just done, this is grounded. I'm just going to cut that, and we'll add it here for our set weapon animations. And instead of here, trigger land, trigger falling, we're going to add a weapon animator trigger. So we'll do weapon animator dot set trigger, and the trigger we're going to set here is falling. I'm just going to copy that because I'm going to add that in a few places. Here we're going to say land, and then obviously in our trigger jump we'll add a jump. Cool. So now we need to go into our weapon animator, and we're just going to add those triggers. We're going to come in here, parameters. Again, if you click on weapon animations, go to controller, double click that, it should open up this controller here. So once we're in this controller, we'll go parameters in the top left, and we'll add in our 3 triggers. So we have a jump, trigger for land, and a trigger for falling. Okay, and then we'll go over to layers, we'll create another layer, and we'll call this falling or jumping layer. Sure, jumping layer. We're going to click the little cog, and we'll change the weight to 1. And then inside here, we're going to click and drag all of our animations. So we have our falling idle, our landing, and our jump. I'm just going to right click, create a state, and create an empty. Inside this new state, I'm literally just going to rename it to empty. How do you spell empty? Empty, just like that. And then right click it and set that as your default. Alright, so our default is basically this layer isn't going to be overriding everything, anything. So let's go ahead and add in some of our triggers. So at the end of the jump, we want it to go into falling idle regardless. So I'm just going to make a transition into falling idle. That's that step done. And then we're going to go from any state, we'll make a transition to landing. Going to click on that transition and let's add a condition. This condition, we are going to be doing our land trigger. And then we'll make a transition from any state to falling. And in the conditions, we'll change that to the falling trigger. And you probably guessed it, we'll do it to jump, condition, jump. I'm going to add one more, and that's from jump to landing. And we'll add a condition, and we'll say land. Alright, and the last thing we want is from any state, oh sorry, not from any state, from landing, we'll make a transition back to empty. So once we've landed, he'll get back to his normal self. Alright, so let's give this a go. I think actually it should just work under that condition. Let's delete this transition, sorry, the one from jump to landing, because it'll still work just on any state. I don't know what I was doing. Alright, let's give that a test. Not 100% sure on how this is going to behave, but we're winging this whole thing anyway. Oh, okay, so you played a landing animation there. If we jump, and let's just take a look what's going on. We click on weapon animations, go to animator, untick play. You can see that this is just stopped playing. Okay, so I think what we have here is because we changed the speed based off of our movement speed. So as long as we're moving, this should all play okay. Alright, so a few little fixes. We need to basically fix the little timer thing where we change the speed of the animation based on the speed of the player, because obviously we don't want that to take effect in our jumping animations. And then the other thing is our animations for jumping and landing. Just make sure you untick the little loop. So we can do that there. Alright, so firstly, let's go back to our where we edited the speed of the animation, which I believe we put in calculate weapon rotation. So see here we have weapon animator.speed, and we set it to our weapon animation speed. Well, we don't want to be doing this anymore, so I'm going to cut that and remove that. And we're just going to come back down here, and just beneath the set bool, we're actually going to put it in a variable inside the animator now. So we're going to have weapon animator.setFloat. And the value we're going to give it is the value that we were setting the whole speed to, except now we're setting it inside a float instead. So I'm just going to call the float the same name, weapon animation speed. So I'm going to copy that name because we're going to go set up that float now inside our animator. So I'll go over to animator and we'll just create a new float, and I'm just going to paste that in there. So this will now have the multiplier for our sprinting and walking animations, and any animation that we want to use that multiplier on, really. So instead of applying the speed to the whole animator, we're just going to be applying it to specific states. So to do this, all you got to do is you click on the state and see here where it says speed and multiplier. You can just add that parameter in there. And walking, we can add that parameter in there. So it should be nice and easy to test. So if I just walk into this, we should see that our weapon animation stops, which it does. And that's when I stop walking. So you see that that's still in full effect, that works as it should. But our jumping and landing animations will all be played at a speed of 1. Okay, so you see now that the animations are actually hooked up, you might want to go and redo some of the jumping and some of the landing. Just to make it feel a little bit more natural, maybe have that landing hit a little bit sooner. In the next tutorial, we're going to work on this gravity bug here, so why we fall down really quick. And yeah, so now we have our jumping and landing animations in play. We also have a few new booleans which we can use later on down the line. But this weapon controller is really starting to come together now. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button ready for the next tutorial. If you need any help, go ahead and join the Discord. And yeah, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you for watching.